My name is Sophia. I'm 38 years old. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting with my husband watching a horror movie when my sister suddenly called. Her voice was shaking. Your husband had a severe accident, she said. He's in surgery, come fast. I actually laughed. I told her, that's impossible. My husband is sitting right in front of me. But she didn't stop. She kept insisting. Sophia, please just come. So I went, and when I reached the hospital, my whole body began shaking. Before I tell you what actually happened, please like the channel, subscribe, and tell me your country in the comments. Now, let's begin. 2 weeks ago, my life was completely normal. I had a loving husband, a peaceful home, and a routine I trusted. My husband, Daniel, traveled often for business, so whenever he returned home, we tried to spend quiet evenings together. That night felt ordinary. We were sitting on the couch watching a horror movie. The lights were dim, popcorn between us, his arm resting casually behind me. Then my phone rang. It was my sister. Her voice was shaking. Your husband had a severe accident. He's in surgery, come fast. I laughed at first. I even looked at Daniel and smiled. That's impossible, I told her. He's sitting right here. Daniel frowned slightly, confused, then gently took the phone from my hand. He spoke calmly, asking questions, trying to understand what was happening. After a few seconds, he handed the phone back. They probably mixed up identities, he said softly. Hospitals make mistakes sometimes. He looked concerned, not scared, just thoughtful. Still, he added, maybe you should go check. It'll calm your sister. Something about the situation felt strange, but not dangerous. Just confusing. So I grabbed my coat and drove to the hospital. The entire drive, I kept telling myself it was a misunderstanding. Daniel was at home. I had just left him there. Alive. Safe. When I reached the hospital, my sister rushed toward me. Her eyes were red from crying. Sophia, thank God you came. My heart started beating faster. She led me down a long hallway that smelled of medicine and silence. Nurses moved quickly past us. Machines beeped behind closed doors. We stopped outside a surgery room. A doctor approached me. Are you Mrs. Sophia Carter? He asked. Yes. He nodded seriously. Your husband was brought in after a car accident. He lost a lot of blood, but surgery went well. My mind refused to understand. I whispered, there must be a mistake. The doctor gently pushed open the door. And then, I saw him, lying on the hospital bed, bandaged, unconscious, breathing slowly. It was Daniel. His face, his hands, his wedding ring. My knees nearly gave out, because an hour earlier, I had left my husband sitting on our couch. And at that moment, I realized something impossible. I had just seen my husband twice. My hands started shaking. I looked from the hospital bed to my sister, hoping someone would laugh and say this was a misunderstanding. But nobody did. The doctor spoke gently. He's stable now. You came just in time. I stepped closer to the bed. The man lying there looked exactly like Daniel. Same scar near his eyebrow. Same hands. Same voice when he whispered weakly under anesthesia. Sophia. My heart stopped. I grabbed the side of the bed to steady myself. If this was my husband, then who was sitting at home? I couldn't stay there any longer. My thoughts were running faster than I could control. I told my sister I needed air and walked outside the hospital. The cold night wind hit my face, but it didn't help. I called Daniel. He answered immediately. Hey, are you okay? He asked softly. His voice sounded normal. Warm. Familiar. I'm at the hospital, I said slowly. They say you're here. There was a short silence. Then he chuckled lightly. See? I told you there was confusion. You probably met someone who looks like me. His calmness made me question myself. Maybe stress was affecting me. Maybe I was overreacting. Still, I returned inside and stayed at the hospital for another hour, staring at the unconscious man. Everything about him felt real. Finally, I went home. When I opened the door, Daniel was waiting in the living room. He stood up immediately. Concern filled his face. "Are you okay?" he asked, pulling me into a hug. His arms felt warm, safe, familiar. I wanted to believe this was my husband. I needed to believe it. He made tea for me, sat beside me, and listened patiently as I explained what I had seen. Instead of panic, he simply nodded. "That must have been terrifying," he said gently. "But mistakes happen. Try to rest." Nothing about his behavior felt wrong. He remembered small details about our life. He spoke the same way. He even knew jokes only Daniel would know. Days passed. I visited the hospital secretly. The other Daniel remained unconscious. Doctors continued calling him my husband. At home, life continued normally. Dinner together. Conversations. Quiet evenings. Two identical realities existed at the same time. I stopped telling anyone how confused I felt, because I was afraid people would think I was losing my mind. One night, I stood in the bedroom doorway watching my husband sleep. The man beside me looked peaceful, loving, perfectly normal. And yet, somewhere across the city, another man with the same face was fighting for his life. I began noticing small things, not suspicious, just different. Tiny pauses before answering questions. Moments where his expressions felt slightly unfamiliar. But every time doubt appeared, he did something kind that erased it. I told myself I was imagining things. Still, I couldn't ignore the question growing louder inside me. Who was my real husband? Weeks passed without answers. Then one evening, my sister called again. Her voice sounded different this time. Serious. Careful. "Sophia," she said quietly, "I think I found something you need to see." And at that moment, I felt my world about to change again. She told me to come to the hospital alone. No one else, especially not my husband. The way she said it made my stomach twist with fear. That night, I told Daniel I was visiting a friend and drove straight to the hospital. My sister was waiting for me in her office. She locked the door behind us before speaking. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered. "But you deserve the truth." She handed me a tablet. On the screen was security footage from a private medical clinic. The video started months earlier. A man walked into the clinic wearing a cap and mask. When he removed it, my breath stopped. It was Victor, Daniel's best friend. Someone who had visited our house many times. Someone we trusted. The footage continued. Doctors prepared him for surgery. Then another clip appeared. Bandages. Recovery rooms. Medical notes. Slowly, horrifyingly, his face changed. Surgery after surgery, until he looked exactly like Daniel. My hands began trembling so badly, I almost dropped the tablet. My sister spoke softly. "That clinic specializes in facial reconstruction." I checked their records. Victor underwent identity transformation surgery. My world collapsed. The man living in my house, the man sleeping beside me, was not my husband. Tears streamed down my face. I remembered every dinner, every conversation, every moment I trusted him. I felt sick realizing I had shared my life with a stranger. But my sister continued. "The accident victim, the one in surgery, that's the real Daniel. The accident wasn't random. It looks planned." She took a deep breath before speaking again. I checked older records from the clinic. Victor had been visiting them long before the surgery. There are notes, personal evaluations. My chest tightened. She looked at me carefully. "Sophia, Victor was obsessed with you. The records show he was in love with you for years. And after reviewing financial documents connected to him, it's clear he also knew about your properties and company shares." My hands started trembling. "He didn't just want Daniel's face," she continued softly. "He wanted Daniel's life and you along with it." I cried for a long time, not just from fear, but from guilt. I had unknowingly loved the wrong man. That night, I made a decision. I would not confront him. Not yet. Instead, I went home and acted normal. I smiled, cooked dinner, talked like nothing had changed. He never suspected anything. For the next few weeks, I quietly gathered proof. Messages between Victor and surgeons. Financial transfers. Security footage timelines. Hospital confirmations. Every piece of evidence I could find. I waited patiently. Then came the day he had been pushing for, a legal meeting to finalize financial authority over my assets. He believed his plan was complete. We sat in a conference room with lawyers present. Victor smiled confidently beside me. The documents were placed in front of us. I picked up the pen, paused. Then I said calmly, "Before signing, I want everyone to watch something." The screen behind us turned on. The surgery video began playing. Victor's smile disappeared instantly. His face turned white. He stood up, trying to speak, but the door opened. Police officers walked in. The room fell silent. Evidence after evidence was presented. Identity fraud, attempted murder, impersonation, psychological manipulation. He tried denying it, but there was nowhere left to run. He was arrested that day. Months later, the court delivered its judgment. Life imprisonment for planning my husband's accident and for living under a stolen identity to manipulate and exploit me. When I finally visited the hospital again, the real Daniel had awakened. I held his hand and cried harder than I ever had before. Not from fear anymore, but from relief. Because after weeks of doubt, I finally knew who my real husband was. And the man who tried to steal my life lost everything.
Yeah, they're very yellow. They're like a banana, kind of yellow, with the black spots. So there is this one which is